All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to this week's Mindful Moment session. My name is Jean, and it's an honor to be able to host these sessions for you all. So, this week we are actually going to be talking about something new, which is pretty exciting. We will be focusing on a new series of mental training practices and basics of them. So, let's go ahead and get started. Oh, I forgot to share my screen. Sorry about that. So our mental training practices include what we're going to cover today are the mindful breathing and the stop practice. And next week we will cover the body scan and the loving kindness meditation. So, for mindful breathing, this might be something that we do even like even if we don't think of it as a mindful practice, just as a way of sort of calming ourselves down. Um, for example, before you're going to speak at a big event, maybe. So we all know that following your breath as you inhale and you exhale is a basic mindful meditation practice that trains attention, also cultivates awareness, settles the mind, and calms the body. And what's so good about this mindful breathing is that it's always available to you. And you can use it as an anchor to anchor your attention to the present moment, wherever you may be, just by practicing this. Doesn't require anything except for you to be mindfully breathing. And when your mind wanders, we can use this anchor and strengthen our ability to direct our focus and also stabilize it. So we're going to go through some of the key sort of steps that we can go through during this mindful breathing practice so that we can sort of make best out of it. So first thing is we want to do is pay attention to the sensations that accompany breathing. So for example, when we breathe, we can feel the air coming in from our nose. And also, if we breathe deeply enough and we are aware, our chest or abdomen is rising and falling. So paying attention to these sensations. Um, Whereas typically when you're breathing normally, you may not be paying attention specifically to these sensations. But this is something that we're going to be doing in this mindful practice. Also, another thing is to recognize when your mind wanders. So a lot of times when we aren't actively doing something, even when we're actively doing something, it's really easy for our mind to wander to other things that are not related to the present moment. So we can gently turn our attention to the present with our breath. And another thing is to follow the full cycle of breathing. So, staying present in the present moment for the inhale, the exhale, and also the space in between the breaths. So, this is something that we also is we may not pay attention to normally, but when we breathe, inhale and exhale, we aren't always inhaling and exhaling. And so really sort of recognizing that there's this level space in between the inhaling and the exhaling. And also using helpful words such as in, out, when you're breathing in and out, or here, or calm, or you can even sort of keep track of the number of breaths um, you have during your allotted mindfulness sort of practice time to support your attention, to help you like focus in the present moment as you inhale and exhale. All right, so we're going to try a guided mindful breathing practice. And let me share my sound. Right, this is around 1 minute.
So sitting comfortably, just taking a big deep breath in through the nose, out through the mouth. As you breathe in, noticing how the body expands. As you breathe out, just watching the body soften as you gently close the eyes. And rather than the mind leading the breath, allow the breath to lead the mind. Notice the sensation of the breath. Notice it where you feel it in the body. If you need to, you can just gently place your hand on the stomach. And just following that rising and falling sensation. Nothing else to do. Allowing thoughts to come and go. And when you're ready, just gently opening the eyes again.
Right, so one thing that I found interesting that they mentioned during the practice was that letting your breath guide your mind rather than your mind guiding your breath. So doing something that we usually don't do, with letting our breath guiding our mind will help us anchor to the present moment.
So sitting comfortably.
Let me go to the next slide. And the other mindful mental training practice we are going to be covering today is the stop practice. So this involves S equals stop. This acronym called STOP, S equals stop. T stands for taking a breath. O stands for observing. And P stands for proceeding with deliberate action. So this is sort of this acronym gives us the basic procedure that we want to follow. And this practice is more specifically towards if you are facing strong emotions or something that you just want to have to pause and stop and proceed with deliberate action rather than letting your emotions take control of you. So it's really all about creating mental space to come back to the present moment. And instead of reacting, like automatic reaction, you are thinking deliberately about what you are doing. So first, following the procedure, we stop, we recognize that strong emotions are present and that you need to create a moment of space. And secondly is taking a breath. So just taking one breath can shift your attention to your body, and that can help you calm down in that specific moment. You can focus on as many breaths as you need to get centered. And then observing your direct experiences in this moment. So what are you experiencing with your body? Maybe your heart is beating rapidly. What are your emotions? Can you name what you're feeling? So identifying your direct experience and your thoughts. One question you could ask yourself is if your biases are affecting your thoughts. And this sort of self inquiry of your direct experience, how you're feeling, can help you tap into your personal insight and truth. And finally, we proceed with kindness. So, thinking about what would a wise action be? Would maybe calling a friend, going outside, taking a walk, or exercising? Um, would that help soothe you instead of maybe having defaulting to an unhealthy sort of coping mechanism? The bottom line is that this is your opportunity to see how mindfulness can fit into your life and adapt it in a way that can suit you. And we'll be continuing learning the two other mindful training practices or mental training practices, which are the loving kindness meditation and the body scan next week. But in the meantime, we're going to transition to our weekly mindful practice. So, right, before we do our weekly mindful practice, I would like us all to take 3 deep breaths. So breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out. Right? Okay, enjoy. Now that we are finished with our mindful practice, we will transition to our discussion section. So thinking about the questions, how might you be able to use self-compassion to face emotional troubles? How does a cause and effect mindset help? And sort of those um, moments when you have these strong emotions. And what are some additional ways to prevent emotions from controlling you? So, in our STOP acronym, remember that the P stands for proceeding with kindness, right? So, using self-compassion is really thinking about what would be the wisest action and what decision would benefit you the most. And perhaps if you have this negative self-talk, one way you could look at it is thinking about how you would treat yourself if you were your friend. Because sometimes we may be a little bit too hard on ourselves in some situations. How does a cause and effect mindset help when we're facing these strong emotions? Well, typically, I think the biggest problem with strong emotions is that our mind immediately wants to default to this comfort, comfort zone, and we're not really comfortable. And when we're facing that strong emotion, sometimes it feels like we're stuck there, right? So one way to get yourself out of that place is to think about, how did I exactly end up here in the first place? Why am I feeling these strong emotions? What is the cause and how did that affect my emotions? So that you might be able to identify what is causing the problem and then try to approach it from that way instead of staying in one place for a long time and just sort of struggling to um, get out of those strong emotions. What are some additional ways to prevent emotions from controlling you? In our session, we went over stop practice as a method when we're encountering strong emotions. We can actually practice this when we're not feeling these strong emotions so that we'll be better prepared in those situations. Some additional ways is to have some healthier comfort mechanisms such as exercising. Usually when you exercise, you'll definitely feel better afterwards because this moving your body kind of helps us refresh and reset our mind in some way. So maybe exercising as whenever you, in the right conditions, whenever you encounter these strong emotions, um, if you're able to, exercising is definitely a great option. But definitely, I think mindful breathing is the one that can be really practiced anywhere. Because sometimes, for example, if you're working, you can't necessarily like stop working and go outside and exercise, but we can definitely practice this mindful breathing. And with our stop practice, we can also be going through that, like in our heads mentally, and sort of trying to reset ourselves. All right, so we're going to conclude the session with a quote relating to what we talked about this week. A moment's insight is sometimes worth a life's experience. And thank you all so much for listening and for attending the session. Hope you all have a wonderful and mindful week ahead.